Hey. Would you listen to me ramble for a bit? Hey, I can pay you a drink if you want. Alrighty. Bartender, serve him up a Tommy's margarita. Thank you. Alright, now to the rambling. Have you heard of the discovered RimWorlds? Planets on the edge of the known and unknown universe. Some say they're beautiful, untaken territory, untouched by man. Even though usually it's not that untouched and there's at least a few tribes, maybe mechanoids and remnants of the past. Have you heard of colonies on the RimWorld? No? Well, that's because nobody speaks of them. Usually they're truly terrifying horror stories. It doesn't matter if you got sent there by a company or you're passing by and you happen to crash land. It's always a pain. Would you like to listen to one of these stories? No, I think I'm good. Well, you better. You got your drink. It all started when 3 colonists crash landed on one of these worlds. Raymond, Kamrov, and Madam. 3 unlucky sons of bitches. Though not as unlucky as they could have been. They still had supplies, food, pretty much everything they needed to survive for a while. I've heard of way worse horror stories. Someone crashing without any equipment, not even the clothes on their back stay. With food not being an issue, first order of business was to build a shelter. In these worlds, everything wants to kill you. Not only the wild animals. It seems like the world itself wants to get rid of you. There's also bandits, other tribes, and other colonies as well. You can never be too careful. Now they couldn't afford a luxury 5-star villa. All they had was a dirty barracks made out of wood. But hey, it's still shelter and it will save them in case anything happens. Imagine doing hard manual labor, not because you're paid for it, but because you need to do it to survive. Now imagine doing that every day, for what seems to be the rest of your life. You would be pretty depressed, huh? Well, they weren't. They were still in shock from the crash, and their expectations were so low that even a cave would have sufficed. But they had to gather up their resources inside. You don't want all of your food getting rained on and just disappearing. That would have been a deathly blow. Speaking of food, they needed to get a reliable source of nutrition. Those prepackaged meals would not last them forever. So they decided to build a small rice farm right next to their house. There was a very rich in nutrient soil, so they can plant them and it'll grow very fast. But of course, with raw food comes one big problem. You can't eat it raw. Well, you can, but you're probably gonna die very, very soon if you keep doing it. So they needed a cooking stove. They decided on electricity. They were gonna need it in the future anyway. They built a small windmill outside, and then an electric stove inside. Afterwards, they also decided to rebuild the house out of marble. They set up a stonecutter's table and then tried to renovate. Though, when you renovate a house, maybe you should start by, well, supporting the roof. They didn't. The roof fell right on them, every single one. It wasn't too bad of injuries, but come on, really? And of course, with one catastrophe comes another. There were rice plants called blight. Now, if you're fast enough, you can contain it. You'd have to be fast enough though and not let every single one get infected. These colonists were not the smartest candle of the bunch. So, guess what happened? But hey, it seems like on these RimWorlds, with each disaster comes a quiet time to catch your breath. During that, the colonists decided to name themselves because it seemed like they were in for a long haul. Not only was this a needed rest period, they also got lucky. A random band of chickens wandered in. Now, if they were a bit smarter, they would have made a zone for the chickens and their trusty horse to wander and to be protected from predators and other dangers. But as I said, that was, not gonna happen. Expansion began on their base. They needed a way for their food to stop spoiling and a more hygienic place to make their meals. They made a kitchen and a freezer to fill those needs. They also finally replaced the shoddy torch that was lighting up their barracks with electric lights. Was this smart when they have an unreliable source of energy without a battery? You already know the answer. More extensions followed, farm improvements, more expansion. It seemed incredibly quiet, except for one mad boom rat. That was until they heard voices in the distance, and they did not sound friendly. One of the neighboring tribes sent their warrior to raid their settlement. Their defense was successful. They wouldn't get beaten by a single tribe. Though this reminded them that they are not alone in this world and not everyone is friendly. After being on the planet for a while, their expectations for living increased. There were some mental breakdowns, but nothing major happened as a result of them. Well, life on the RimWorlds doesn't seem that bad right now, does it? But the problem comes with terrible spirals that will destroy any colony if they're not remedied. A cougar started hunting their animals and they had no safe way to deal with it. They managed this time, but weak defenses are unacceptable on these worlds. They finally got their own bedrooms. It was all starting to look uphill from there. They even started building a hospital and a prison for the unfortunate raiders that wanted to attack them. All so they could recruit them into their ranks and improve their odds of survival. Work began on a grand wall to protect themselves even better than before. They couldn't have known that it was too late. The next raid was here before they could finish it. A group of imps. Now, if you don't know what imps are, their specialty is spitting fire at their foes. The colonists were not ready for such a challenge. They got overtaken by a fiery inferno of doom. The screams were heard far and wide. The smell of burning flesh and corpse. All of them went down that day. The stranger in black happened to be passing by. He tried to save them, but not even he could fight off the inferno. He fell to those devilish creatures the same way the colonists did. That's it. The tragic tale of the Pichine colony. There were many more like them. Some got taken by similar raids. Some suffered fates way worse. Ripped apart by bugs or even guinea pigs. Taken by a cult worshipping an eldritch god, or even taken by those eldritch horrors themselves. But you've probably had enough for one sitting. I hope you've enjoyed your drink. If you want to hear some more, here's my number. We can meet here anytime you want. I'm not paying next time, though. Enjoy your evening.
Wait, how do you know these stories if everyone died?
Don't ask questions you don't want to know, kid. See ya.